I'm Richard Hale. I'm 74 years old. I wish I didn't have to be here like this. I've never told this to anyone, because it's the most painful part of my entire life. But I believe that if even one person hears it and avoids the same mistake I made, then that pain will have meaning. My daughter Emily and I had 40 years together. It sounds long. I know. Longer than the actual age of some of you watching. And for most of those years, I thought I was an okay dad. Not perfect, but okay. I raised her. I worked hard. I kept this roof over our heads. The kind of father-daughter relationship that many people would call enough. But here's what no one tells you about being a parent. You can live with a child for decades, watch them grow up day by day, and still not really know who they are. You can sit at the same dinner table, live under the same roof, hear their footsteps every night, and still be strangers in the most heartbreaking ways. Emily passed away 40 years ago. Late-stage lymphoma, diagnosed in late spring, and gone by early fall. Just a few months from being healthy and vibrant, to no longer here, and in her final weeks, lying in hospice, her hand growing cold in mine, she said something to me that I've carried with me every single day since. Emily said, "Dad, I just wish you had been there when I really needed you." At the time, I didn't fully understand what she meant. I defended myself. Like anyone who's convinced they've done their duty, I was a good dad. Right? I raised her. I provided. I did my part. But that's exactly what the problem was. I confused physical presence with emotional presence. I was content thinking that just providing was enough. And being content is not the same as being connected. Let me tell you what I mean. Emily was 5 when I missed her first school play. I still remember the teacher sending home the flyer with the date and time. And Emily was so excited that she hugged my legs every night, repeating over and over that she had a short solo line and wanted me there to hear it. But that day, I got stuck in a long meeting, and when I looked at the clock and realized I couldn't make it in time, I told myself, "It's okay. It's just a little kid's show. There'll be plenty more." I didn't realize that to a 5-year-old, just starting to understand anticipation, that one was the only one, not one of many. Emily scanned the crowd of parents when the show ended, looking for me, but only saw unfamiliar faces. When I got home, she was already asleep. I convinced myself she was fine, that kids forget quickly. By the time Emily was 8, she brought a family drawing into my office. 3 people, me, her, and her mom standing together, holding hands, smiling under a blue sky she'd colored so carefully. Emily stood in the doorway, holding the picture against her chest, eyes full of expectation. I was reviewing revenue reports and didn't want to be interrupted, so I said, "Wait a minute, honey. I'm almost done." But I wasn't done for hours. And when I came out to the living room, the drawing was neatly placed on the table, and Emily was watching TV, saying nothing. I thought I'd look at it with her later, but I didn't. And I told myself again that it was no big deal. When Emily was 10, she got teased by friends for the old shoes I'd bought on sale the year before. She ran home, eyes red, trying to tell me about it while I was answering work emails. I glanced up, without leaving the keyboard, and said, "You're strong. Don't worry about little things like that." I thought I was teaching her resilience, but really, I was teaching her that her pain wasn't worth stopping to listen to. When Emily was 12, Laura, her mother, passed away. I remember how Emily clung to my hand in the hospital, her small shoulders shaking, while I stood frozen, not knowing what to do beyond the familiar. "We'll be okay, honey." I thought I had to be strong to hold everything together, and I threw myself into work even more, under the excuse of for our future. But the future I was clinging to was one where Emily learned to grow up in silence, while I gradually disappeared from her emotional world. As Emily entered her teens, she started withdrawing. Dinners with fewer words, doors closed longer. Moments where she'd start to speak, and then change her mind. I didn't notice those signs. Or worse, I did, but comforted myself that it was just normal teenage stuff. I still believed that as long as I provided tuition, meals, a home, she'd be fine. When Emily was 17, on prom night, I arrived late. She'd already taken pictures, already smiled enough with friends, already stepped into one of the most beautiful moments of a young woman's life without her dad there. When I showed up, she just looked at me with a polite smile, more mature than her age, and said, "It's okay, Dad. I understand." I felt relieved, thinking she wasn't upset. Now I know that's when she started accepting that I would never really be there. Then came graduation. I arrived on time, snapped a few quick photos, and before Emily could say anything, I said, "I have to get back to the office. Urgent matter." I clearly remember how her eyes dropped for a second before she forced a smile and nodded. Everyone around was hugging their kids, proud and beaming, while I just stood there like a visitor passing through. All those years, I kept thinking Emily was okay, that kids get over things, that silence means strength, that distance is a natural part of growing up. But the truth is, it isn't. Emily left home at 18 for college in Boston, and that was the first time I realized how quiet the house was without her footsteps. I remember driving her to the dorm, carrying stuff to her room, asking a few superficial questions about her roommate, then heading back right away because of an afternoon meeting. I thought I was doing the right thing, not hovering, not interfering, letting her grow on her own terms. But really I was just repeating the old habit, keeping distance from someone I assumed would always be there. In her early college years, Emily still called every week. She'd talk about classes, how Boston was colder than she expected. Little things like a coffee shop she liked. I listened, but didn't really listen. Many calls I put on speaker while continuing to check emails. I thought that was multitasking, staying connected while working. To Emily, it was probably the first time she felt my absence, even while I was on the phone with her. By her sophomore year, the calls tapered off. One skipped week, then two, then a month. I didn't notice, or I did but told myself, "It's normal, she's busy." I didn't understand that sometimes silence isn't because someone's busy, but because they've gotten used to not being heard. In her 20s, Emily started exploring art. She emailed me a few photos of her first design project, something she said she was prouder of than anything before. I replied simply, "Looks great." 3 words. In my mind then, I thought I'd encouraged her, but now I see the emptiness in that response. Emily once invited me to an art exhibition that she said was important to me because it was the first time one of her pieces was displayed in Boston. I declined because of a business trip. I remember her voice on the phone, trying to sound casual. "It's okay, Dad. I understand." I felt relieved hearing that. Now I know that relief was indifference. I didn't realize that every time I said I'm busy, she learned another lesson, that she wasn't a priority to her dad. Holidays came, and Emily came home less. First year Thanksgiving, next just Christmas, the year after, only gifts. Finally, just a call to say Merry whatever. And don't worry about me, Dad. I still thought she was fine, that she had her own life. I didn't understand that. Not coming home didn't mean she didn't need family. It meant she no longer expected anything from me. At 23, Emily went through her first relationship. I remember her calling late one night, voice shaky, trying to tell me that her boyfriend broke up because I always feel like I'm not important enough to anyone. I said, "You'll be okay," like a default response, I didn't ask why she felt that way. I didn't realize she was talking about me in that sentence too. When she reached 30, Emily moved to New York. The city seemed to fit her. Bustling, creative, where no one cares who you are or where you're from. She sent me a few photos of her small apartment. I replied, "Looks nice," and that was the entire conversation. From then on, we talked once or twice a month, but those calls were no different from exchanges between strangers. "How are you?" "I'm good." "How's work?" "Fine, Dad." "I'm good too." "Okay." No call ever went beyond the scripted lines. No one asked anything deeper. No one opened up. I thought that was natural as kids grow up. I didn't understand that silence was something we'd built ourselves, little by little, over the years. Emily lived a life where I existed only as a name in her contacts, and I lived a life where I believed my daughter was okay, strong, and knew I loved her, even when I never said it right. And that irresponsible self-comfort took away my last chance to truly know her before it was too late. I didn't lose my daughter in one day. I lost her over decades. In every small moment, I unconsciously missed. Every word I didn't say, every time I wasn't there. Emily collapsed right in the middle of her office on a June afternoon. Her colleagues panicked and called an ambulance, and by that evening, the doctors reported they had found abnormal lymph nodes, suspecting lymphoma. When I got the call, I tried to convince myself it was probably just exhaustion, just overwork. Emily had always worked a lot, staying up late constantly for her creative projects. But when I arrived at the hospital and saw her lying in the bed with a pale face and tubes hooked into her, I knew this wasn't something simple. A few days later, the results confirmed it. Stage IV lymphoma, end stage, inoperable. Only palliative treatment possible. It felt like someone had hit me straight in the chest with a heavy hammer, and all the sounds around me became muffled. Emily looked at me, gave a weak smile I'd never seen on her before, and said as if comforting me, "Don't worry, Dad, I can handle it." I didn't understand why she was so calm, until I learned that Emily had been hiding the illness for 3 months. "I didn't want to worry you," she said. "You already have enough on your mind." That statement should have woken me up immediately, but instead I just stood there, not knowing whether to cry or apologize first. That was the first time I realized I'd created a life where my daughter believed telling me she was dying would be a burden to me. From that night on, I stayed at the hospital every evening. This was the first time I'd sat watching her sleep since she was 6 and had a high fever. I remember sitting there for hours, watching her breathe laboriously, wondering how we drifted so far apart. And then one night, when the room light was just enough to see the tired lines on her face, Emily opened her eyes and said, "Dad, can we talk?" It had been nearly 20 years since she'd last initiated a conversation with me about something truly important. I nodded, feeling my heart pounding as if preparing for a verdict. Emily talked about little things I'd long forgotten or thought weren't worth remembering. About the family drawing when she was 8. The picture I didn't look at in the moment and never looked at again. "I waited a whole week for you to say something nice about it," Emily said, her voice like a whisper. "I thought if you liked it, I'd put it on the fridge. But you were busy. So I guessed it wasn't as good as I thought." Then she told me about the prom dress when she was 17. The purple one she chose because she thought it matched her eyes, and how she'd stood in front of the mirror for a long time, hoping I'd think she looked beautiful, just once. "You came late," she whispered. "I waited for you by the door. But then I had to go." I bit my lip until it bled, not daring to look her in the eye. And then she talked about the time she visited home in her 20s. But I only ate dinner with her for 10 or 15 minutes before standing up and saying, "I have to get back to the office." Emily recounted all those things without any blame. She just told them as if reviewing her life, connecting the cracks I'd never noticed. And I, for the first time in my life, dared to ask her the question I'd feared for years. Do you hate me? Emily was silent for a long time, as if choosing each word with painful care. No, she said. I don't hate you. I just wish you'd seen me sooner. That answer hurt more than any accusation, because it didn't come from anger, but from letting go. She'd accepted that I couldn't be the father she'd once hoped for, and that acceptance tore me apart more than any blame ever could. In the weeks that followed, Emily's condition deteriorated quickly. I sat by the bed, telling stories, asking questions, trying to hold on to every second I'd wasted over 41 years. But you can't reclaim time with late apologies. You can only watch it slip away in front of you. And then came the final night. Emily was breathing harder, eyes half closed, her hand so cold I had to grip it tightly to feel any remaining warmth. She opened her eyes and looked at me, very slowly, as if gathering her last strength, and said the final words I'll carry until I close my own eyes. Dad, I just wish you'd been there when I was still living. When she let go of my hand, my world sank with it. I understood right then that I hadn't just lost her that night. I'd lost her over the 41 years when I kept telling myself she's fine. I was a provider, but I was never a father. I cleaned out Emily's apartment a week after the funeral. It was the last thing I wanted to do, but also the only thing I could still do for her. Her small apartment was on the 7th floor of an old building in Brooklyn, the walls covered with illustrations and sketches I'd never seen before. I stood in the middle of the room, looking around, trying to imagine the life she'd lived over the past 6 years, a life almost completely separate from mine. I opened the closets, cleared each drawer, folded every shirt, every scarf. Everything in the room bore Emily's mark, meticulous, quiet, and alone. And then, when I opened the last drawer of the small wooden table by the bed, I found a dark brown wooden box, old enough that some corners were chipped. On the lid was carved EH in clumsy handmade letters. I held it in my palm, feeling like I was holding her heart. When I opened it, everything inside nearly took my breath away. The first letter on top was a cream-colored envelope. Never sent. The address read, Dad. I opened it, my hands shaking so much it took seconds to read the words. Emily wrote, I want to tell you about my new job, but I'm not sure if you're busy. I guess you'd be happy to know, but sometimes I'm not sure if you really care. Anyway, I still want to tell you. I folded the letter and set it aside, but the lump in my throat didn't ease. Below it was a small floral-covered journal, the kind she'd used as a teen. I flipped to a random page, neat handwriting, childish but full of emotion. I don't need gifts, I need him. It felt like someone pressing directly on my chest. I turned a few more pages. Maybe Dad doesn't know how to love me. Maybe it's not his fault. Maybe I'm too much. I had to set the journal down, because my vision was blurring. I remembered Emily at 12, standing silently outside the room when her mother died. I remembered saying, we have to be strong. I thought I was doing the right thing, but reading these lines, I understood that what she needed wasn't my strength. It was my vulnerability. At the bottom of the box was Emily's old phone. I turned it on and went to notes. Dozens of entries, most just a few lines, but enough to expose her inner life, the one I'd never truly seen. One note had just 7 words. If I disappeared, would he notice? I had to sit down, because my legs gave out. Emily had once wondered if her existence even mattered to me. I couldn't understand how a child raised in my home could write things like that, until I remembered all the times I'd missed. The rushed dinners, the short calls, the rote encouragements, the moments I thought she's fine, and went on with my own life. In another note, she wrote, "I wish Dad would stay longer when I visit. 15 minutes isn't enough to feel like a family." I read that sentence over and over, as if each time was a new cut. 15 minutes. That was the entirety of the presence I'd given her for years. I'd thought she was independent, strong, didn't need me. But it turned out she needed me so much, she had to write down questions I never noticed to answer. Finally, I found another letter, written 3 months ago, when Emily knew her illness was terminal. "Dad, I don't know how to make you understand that I never wanted anything big from you. I just wanted you to see me, really see me. If you know that now, maybe that's enough." I sat silently for hours, the open box in front of me, the evidence of a life I'd missed spread out before my eyes. I couldn't blame the illness, time, or unforeseen circumstances. It was all me. I was the one who made my daughter question whether she mattered to her father. And when I stood up, wiped my tears, and gently closed the wooden box, I knew this was the only truth I'd carry for the rest of my life. I lost her long before I lost her. I'm 74 years old, and I've spent most of the time left in my life thinking about the thing I only understood at the end of my daughter's. I used to believe being a dad meant providing, paying the mortgage, tuition, healthcare, giving her a full life. But I was wrong. Parenting isn't providing. Parenting is presence, being there, listening even when you're tired, sitting down when your child wants to talk, even about the smallest things, looking long into the face of the child in front of you and asking, "What are you feeling? What do you need from me?" I didn't do any of that. And the price was an entire life missed. One where Emily had to live most of it in silence, so I could chase things I once thought were more important. If there's one thing I hope you take away from hearing this story, it's this time with your children isn't infinite. It's not like money or a career. It doesn't come back. It doesn't accumulate. It doesn't get made up with a vacation or a gift. Time with your children is not infinite. It evaporates. I know you think you have plenty of time. I thought so too. I thought I'll make it up later. She understands. I'll talk to her tomorrow. But tomorrow doesn't come for everyone. The conversations you postpone, the moments you think aren't important, the words of love you assume your child just knows, they build into distance. Then one day you'll wake up and realize you know nothing about the child you've raised your whole life. So I want you to ask yourself, really ask, not just think in passing, when did you last truly see your child? Not just glance while you're busy. Not just ask, "How are you?" as small talk. I'm talking about looking into their eyes and asking, "Are you really okay? Are you assuming your child knows you love them? Are you thinking throwing yourself into work is for them? Are you letting busyness steal year after year, month after month, moment after moment that should belong to your family?" I hope you don't have to learn this lesson the way I did, because no one wants to hear their child's final words and realize it was something that should have been obvious if they'd just looked. If I could leave you with one sentence to remember, it would be this: your children can wait for you, but time won't. So if you still have a chance, even a little, use it tonight. Call your child. Ask them something you've never asked. Sit down for dinner without your phone. Listen more than you speak. Let your child know you see them, that they matter, that you're here. And if this story touches you in any way, share it. Who knows? There might be a father or mother out there walking the same path I did, and this reminder could save them from a lifetime of regret. And if you have a story, a lesson you think could help someone avoid repeating your mistake, send it to us. Because sometimes one story can save a life. I lost my chance. I just hope you don't lose yours. Thank you for listening to my story. If this touched you, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next shares. See you soon, and I hope you'll carry the most important thing. Don't wait until it's too late.